tricks you. That happens. And that's also something Allah taught us in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. One of the things that, fascinates me about his story is he went through so much. And not once did Allah say that he was sad or he broke or, he was depressed. And you could imagine he must have been sad, but Allah didn't mention it. But one time Allah did mention it. You know when? When his brothers told, when they came back.
With the blood.
No, not with the blood. When his brothers came back, when he was already a minister, and they didn't know that it's him.
Yeah.
And they said, well, his brother stole. He used to have a brother, basically Yusuf. He used to have a stealing problem too. They said that to him, not knowing that it's him. And it's at that point, asarraha fi Yusuf. Allah says in the Quran, asarraha fi nafsi. Yusuf alayhi salam hid that deep inside himself. Like that one he had to swallow. In other words, when family says hurtful things, that's extra hurtful. Anybody else says it, no problem. The minister's wife can accuse him, he doesn't have to swallow that inside. He gets thrown in jail, he doesn't have to swallow that inside. When his own brothers say he used to steal, that hurt. That hurts him inside. You know why? Because your family can say, well, I'm family. I know him. I know her. I live with him. So when I say he steals, he steals. I have the credibility of living with him. So if I give him a label, that's a fair label. You understand? So that's more painful. Now, why am I sharing this at the end with you? Because regardless of what other people outside say about you or me or anybody else, when you decide to say mean things about your own family, about your own kids, about your own sons or daughters, if parents decide to say, cruel things to their children, if husbands or wives decide to say cruel things to each other and think it's okay, it's my kid, I can say whatever I want. This is not a license Allah gave. This is not a license Allah gave. When we go outside, we treat each other respectfully most of the time, right? But inside the house, all bets are off. You could say whatever you want, however you want, no holds barred, no restrictions, because it's in the family, it's all good. You know who Allah is going to ask us about first on Judgment Day? How we treated our families. Inside. Study Quran, study the prophets. The prophets of Allah in the Quran, all of them have the hardest trials from who? Outsiders?
No.
Families. Every one of them, families. Why is Allah highlighting that so much? Because that's where our trials are going to be. And Allah is telling us if the prophets were not spared with trials in your family, how are you going to be spared? It's going to come. You and I just have to realize, am I being the trial? Am I part of the trial? Am I the one that loses my temper? Am I the one that says things I shouldn't say? Am I the one that's being hurtful or insensitive or insulting? Am I the one that's condescending? And then the other side. Now the last thing I want to share with you, since we're on that subject, I know I'm a little bit all over the place because my mind was somewhere else there and somewhere else here, but that's okay. The last thing I want to share with you is just about empathy. Empathy means when somebody's in pain. When somebody's in pain, they are not themselves. I'll say that again. When someone's in pain, they are not themselves. So they say things and they do things that are not the real them. I'm not giving them license to say whatever they want. But in our families especially, we have to develop a level of empathy. In other words, when somebody, for example, gets very angry. Somebody gets very angry. Easy to say, they got angry. They have an anger problem. The harder thing to do is to ask, where did that anger come from? Why are they angry? What made them that way? That's empathy. And that's very difficult to do. To actually stop and think and empathize and acknowledge that somebody's going through pain. No, I don't want to hear it. We just want people to change the way we want them to change, do what we want them to do. How many parents come to me and say, if my son or daughter just prayed better or they dressed better, I'd be happy. Why are you in charge of their behavior? Again, control. But they just get upset when I talk about it. Why do they get upset? Did you ever ask why they get upset? Did we ever have that conversation? Those are difficult conversations, but honest and important conversations that have to be had. Because sometimes people will say things, and I want to give you just one example of that from our deen. That's one of my favorite examples. To set this up, Allah says about parents, maybe some of you know the Arabic.